When the Disney company bought Fox for $70 billion, the Fox Corporation turned around and bought a streaming service for $440 million. Now that streaming service is almost as popular and makes more money than Disney Plus. Let's talk about their next move on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place. Here with me are two wonderful gentlemen, the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern of That Park Place, Mr. Vash Sky and Culture Casino. I've misused Shakespeare, guys. Please laugh.
To be or not to be, I guess.
Yes, and of course,
here.
that is what we are going to be talking about today. We come not to eulogize Disney, but to bury it. Tubi partners with sports streaming platform. I believe that is pronounced DAZN. The Fox streamer will launch fast channels during women's soccer and boxing and MMA. There's another person that's also going for this strategy here. This appears to be, we're going to talk about the fact that the entire market is pushing in this direction, and now Tubi is also pushing in that sports direction, even while Disney is trying to do their own thing. Okay, the Fox streamer will launch fast channels featuring women's soccer. I don't care so much myself, but maybe there's an audience out there, and boxing and MMA, otherwise known as Mighty Morphin Martial Arts. No, Mixed Martial Arts. This by Caitlin Houston, maybe, of The Hollywood Reporter. Tubi, Fox's free ad-supported streamer, has partnered with British streaming service DAZN to add new channels featuring live and recorded women's football, or soccer, as it's known in the U.S., short for Association Soccer, or Football Association Soccer. It's just short for football. Anyways, as well as boxing and MMA. The licensing agreement will see the U.S. launch of the channel DAZN Ringside, which also features boxing and MMA from Matchroom Boxing, Golden Boy, Wasserman, and MF and DAZN X series. That includes weigh-ins, archive fights, documentaries, and DAZN Boxing Show. Full runbacks of world title fights will be available on the channel after an embargo period. This is, I would say that this is a good move for a streaming service that does not require a subscription in order to get it. All you have to have is a login. And looking down here, this looks like they'll get a larger portion of the market, because in February, Tubi reached a high of 1.7% of all TV use per Nielsen's monthly gauge report. Guys, why is that important related to this company that often covers the Disney streaming services?
Can I put something up on screen?
Do, Vash. This is the gauge, isn't it? Well, this is Yahoo's.
Well, this is Yahoo's, but 1.7% is quite a bit when you consider that Disney Plus, who Culture, I mean, I love this quote from Culture here, and I'm sure he'll repeat it here, has spent $100 billion just to be 0.2% higher in this race here for streaming dominance. It's quite the feat.
It's flabbergasting, because I stumbled on that idea. I was like, wait a minute, they bought Fox so they could have more streaming content, and all of these other efforts. We need to get more of Hulu so we can control the streaming market. And Hulu was successful and has been successful for a long time at the 2.8% you see on this gauge. But Disney Plus plus 30 billion times 2. 30 billion 2 years in a row. That's $60 billion.
An unthinkable amount of money in order to make content that most people are not watching. Because as we often bring up, and there's another channel and there's another video where we brought this up, 30% of all television viewing on Disney Plus is Bluey, which is not made by Disney. They lucked into a licensing agreement in 2019 for Bluey, and that is pretty much the only reason that Disney Plus is above Tubi, let alone Peacock. And Peacock barely pays anything for their subscribers. The customer acquisition costs for Peacock are super low, because they basically hand out subscriptions to anyone who is on Xfinity, and Peacock is closer to profitability. Actually, it may be even profitable.
I think it is
already
profitable.
Here. Yeah. Disney Plus is technically going to be profitable here in the next quarter. This is insanity to me that they paid this much money, and Rupert Murdoch for a song. $440 million bought Tubi, and then just said, whatever, you can license us. We're gonna run ads on it. So what if we do an ad split on this? And it's possible that Tubi is in the red. I don't think it's in the red. It seems like it's run as a pretty lean operation here, most likely in the black. guys, is this the way of the future here? As ESPN is now doing this partnership with Warner Brothers and with Fox, and they're going to do some kind of sports JV that appears on each of their individual streaming services. Do you think Tubi is going to end up with that ESPN joint venture?
Look, it's quite possible. I mean, let's talk about this very quickly, because the big question is the traditional linear broadcast model the right one? Yes.
Yes, it absolutely is. Look at this.
It's actually
I mean, this is becoming such a touchstone for all of us. This chart here, which, by the way, I want to say thank you again to Mac, the @NowIt'sKnown Twitter account, for pointing this information out to us. Saves us so much time on research. But broadcast represents broadcast and cable, which is essentially the same product. They account for 50% of the market, even more when you account for YouTube TV up there in that top right corner is included in the YouTube figure. But there's some form of cable that exists here, or broadcast model, that is accounting for 50% or more of this model here. And I get the feeling that people are pretty much okay with it. They've heard of streaming. And I think we are where we are on this. Maybe it falls, maybe it doesn't. But looking at this, it sounds like cable repackaged is the way to go. I just want to point out here another streaming service that is very similar. It's at the bottom of this, actually. I don't know if it's visible here. Vash, can you push that up just a little bit so we can see the teeny tiny company there at the bottom there? You can just barely make out. There it is. Paramount Plus with 1.1%, Pluto with 0.8. If you combine them, that's 1.9. That is also similar to Disney Plus here. Obviously, that's not exactly the fair way to do it, because if you add Disney Plus and Hulu together, it's more. But those two together represent the same amount of streaming as Disney Plus. And going over here, PlutoTV is rolling out South Park channels for their international markets. Did we explain this in the fast section here when we were talking about Tubi? This is what Tubi does. They offer micro or micro genre IP channels, things that are very focused as singular channels, and you just tune into those individual channels in a very cable-like way. And it looks like they're going to be doing some for South Park here on the Pluto app, which is, of course, owned by Paramount. Paramount's in big trouble from a financial standpoint, and they're just trying to figure out who they're going to get married to in order to get them out of this awful situation here. If you can picture an old Pride and Prejudice style situation here. Matt Stone and Trey Parker's animated series will be expanded into a suite of main and theme channels dedicated to popular characters on the ad-based streaming platform. Paramount Global is planning a suite of streaming channels for South Park. The series from creators Matt Stone and Trey Parker has aired 26 seasons on Comedy Central and spawned a movie. Now, Pluto is doubling down on South Park, probably a smart move because it's one of Paramount's most successful franchises. Also, I believe a big moneymaker. It was a big moneymaker for Hulu. I think it also appears on Max on occasion. Studio execs note the expansion of the South Park universe on Pluto TV outside the U.S. does not represent new content. It will instead be making the existing animated series more widely available on the ad-based streaming platform. And the last time I checked, it doesn't matter as long as they've got ads on it who's watching it. The studio also plans a series of monthly South Park themed channels across. There's a whole list of countries here. I'm not going to go through each one of these, but these micro IP channels that already exists on most cable boxes that already exist. By the way, Disney's doing this with the ABC.com app here. And of course, as we've covered elsewhere on this channel, they are planning to add micro IP and micro genre channels onto the Disney Plus app. I think they're going to try at first to do that to the paid subscribers to pretend like it's a premium thing. But eventually, I would not be surprised if a lot of those are free. Guys, is this the entire market here? Is Fox catching up by essentially offering broadcast channels over the internet? And they are schooling Disney and their billions, tens of dozens of billions, $100 billion investments with this scrappy little idea of saying, hey, what if you turn on your TV and we got a bunch of content and you can select these different linear channels, if you want to call them that, and we will just have people pay us to show you that content. What a crazy idea.
It's almost like we saw this coming.
Yes. What's old is new again. This time without the VHS or DVD or Blu-ray sales.
Yeah, I kind of miss Buzz myself.
Just, I mean, you just said it, Vash. I mean, that's the thing we were saying. You're like, you cut out 5 to 6 other like ways to get money, only to re-arrive at the conclusion that you already had before you invested billions of dollars in the streaming experiment. That, well, linear television model works good. Oops.
It really does. It really does. People will show up wherever the content is, and if there are ads on it and they don't have another option, they will watch it with ads. A lot of people are against sailing the seas for this kind of stuff because you never know what you might get there. There is of course a small segment of the market who always comment, I will never watch anything that has ads in it. Well, I just want to say, of course, thank you very much for watching That Park Place. I go back to this idea that Rupert Murdoch said, I don't know, I'm thinking about getting out of the business, Bob. And he managed to get him to pay a ridiculous amount of money for something that he was able to accomplish with a small fraction of that.
Hang on. I think there was a fellow over at Comcast that also encouraged him to overspend.
Yes. Yeah.
And of course, Comcast it's so funny. People were mocking the Peacock app when it first started, but slow and steady wins the race. And when Peacock makes content, when NBC Universal makes content, they send it to the theater. Sometimes they boost that by putting it on NBC on the Peacock app. They've done a little bit of work in putting games exclusively on Peacock. We have yet to see, by the way, that Valiant Renegade live stream is going to have the fallout or the results of who stuck around after the fact for that one game. I think it was Kansas City Chiefs. It seems like slow and steady is a much better way to build a streaming service, as opposed to saying we want to be Netflix and trying to recreate that over the course of 4 years. It seems like the entire market is saying, whoa, 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 whoa.
Well, the funniest thing is all they had to do was model themselves. And this is what fast channels did, right? Model yourself after the diginets, which are, usually around, okay, we have, these 4 programs and we're just going to run these 4 programs 24 hours a day with commercial breaks in between. And that worked, right? And so the fast channels came out, did the same thing. And now the bigger streamers caught on, and Peacock obviously was doing it from the very beginning. And you see that their results are profitable. You do not see that in streaming. Didn't it take Netflix 20 years to generate a profit? Doesn't it feel like that?
Well, of course, there's the whole disc rental aspect of it that we kind of ignore. They had a large customer base before they came up with Netflix Instant, which I'm really glad they got rid of that Instant title on there. And of course, then Hulu Plus was an excellent experiment. I loved Hulu Plus back in the day. In fact, I used to have, instead of a TV, I used to have just a computer monitor in my living room and a TV next, and a tower next to it, because we did all of our TV watching on a computer. Now, you can't buy a TV that doesn't have some kind of smart implement in it. And of course, they're all listening to you while you watch TV and wondering, why did you laugh at that joke? Of course, do we want to throw this to our listeners and our viewers here? What do you think of this situation? Are you a person who watches Tubi? Are you a person that watches Pluto? Will you be considering that, or will you be paying a little money and going over to Disney Plus, Max, any of those paid streamers? By the way, Warner Brothers has still not followed all the way through with their plan to do a free with ad-supported streaming service. So there's a question there about how that's all going to work out. Of course, Pluto and Roku have picked up a lot of that content themselves. Like this video if you like this video, and consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.